What's going on, everybody? Justin here on Twitter. You know who I am, TNA at TNA WWE guy. This video is the Year in Wrestling 2005 Part 2. I'll be talking about April to probably the end of June, about WWE and TNA basically. Ring of Honor did start on pay-per-view in, I think, late 2006 or 2007. They did start on pay-per-view, but I'm not going to talk about Ring of Honor, even though they had some great wrestling in 05. What I will mention is last video, part 1 of 05, I talked about WrestleMania 21 to end the video. And I forgot to mention, I don't know how I forgot this, but I forgot to mention that Hulk Hogan made an appearance and returned at WrestleMania 21. I believe Eugene was getting attacked by Mohammed Hassan and the like terrorist type character, but he played the part very well. And I believe the guy was Italian and not even Muslim or whatever he was supposed to be. The guy was Italian who was playing Mohammed Hassan. Anyways, he played the part very well, and I thought he was a good talent, but obviously he didn't have the passion for wrestling, or else he would still be in it. Anyways, Hogan comes out, saves Eugene, beats up Mohammed Hassan, throws him over the top rope. Then real American music hits. Fans are going crazy. Hulkamania running wild. He returns and then he poses and leaves WrestleMania 21. So that was great that Hulk Hogan made an appearance at WrestleMania 21. He was still really over. And the night before, I forgot to mention, WWE put on their second Hall of Fame ceremony. In 04, they brought it back and inducted a lot of guys into the Hall of Fame in 2004 before WrestleMania 20. Before WrestleMania 21, the 2005 Hall of Fame inducted guys like Rowdy Piper. Damn well deserved. Rowdy Piper winning, Hulk Hogan, Paul Orndorff, Bob Orton, Randy Orton's father, Bob Orton, Cowboy Bob Orton, whatever you want to call him. Who else went in 05? The Iron Sheik went in and did a pretty epic induction speech. That was pretty damn funny. He just wouldn't stop talking. Who else went in 05? I think Nikolai Volkov. I'm not really sure. Anyways, I'm a huge Hogan mark. I grew up watching wrestling and became a wrestling fan because of Hulk Hogan. If it wasn't for me seeing him on TV, I wouldn't be a wrestling fan. So I'm a big Hogan mark. Always have been. The guy was my wrestling hero and wrestling idol growing up, was Hulk Hogan. Just got a few things here I thought I'd share, because I did not mention Hulk Hogan returned at WrestleMania 21 and only wrestled a couple matches in 05 for the WWE, but he still returned. This is an old Hulk Hogan WCW action figure. Probably came out in, I think, 1994. And this was very generic. His rubber, doesn't move his arms or legs, but that's how they made them back. In the 80s, they came out with the first WWF dolls. I don't like to call them dolls. I call them action figures. Or I don't even like to call them toys. I just call them action figures. Anyways, they made a Hulk Hogan figure like this in the 80s that was rubbery and didn't move like this. The WWF put it out in probably 85 or 86 when they came out with their action figures. This is a WCW Hulk Hogan action figure. Anyways, they came out with other ones that I have that are smaller, like from 91 and whatever. Here's another one. I showed you a Hulkamania action figure. Here's Hollywood Hogan. Here's Hollywood Hogan. Again, he doesn't really move. His arms don't bend. I got other figures of Hollywood Hogan that do, where their legs and arms do move. But anyways, I just thought I'd show you this one because it's an NWO Hollywood Hogan. So there it is. And I guess I'll share this too. This is old school. This is a Hulk Hogan wrestling buddy. Here it is. Old school Hulk Hogan wrestling buddy. There it is. There's the back. It's really old, really beat up. Got some rips in it. Because when I was a kid, 6 and 7 years old, I played and wrestled it a ton of times. So it's beat up, it's old, but I still got it. And I'm not giving it away or selling it. Or throwing it out. I'd regret it if I did. So now, on to Backlash. WWE's April 2005 pay-per-view. Took place, or May pay-per-view, because WrestleMania was in April. So Backlash happened in May. May 1st, 05. Intercontinental Championship match. Benjamin defended and defeated Chris Jericho. It was a good match to kick off Backlash 05. And this match, I guess, is worth mentioning. The Hurricane and Rosie won a 5 tag team gauntlet match, last defeating Rob Conway and Sylvain Grenier, La Resistance, I believe they were called, to win the Raw World Tag Team titles. So Hurricane and Rosie become the World Tag Team Champions. And if you see this side of my face getting dark, it's because it's really cloudy out. There's not much light in my room, and so I got the TV on, and when the light goes on my face from the TV, I guess it lights up my face. I'm not going to put on a light yet because it's only like 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock. So I'm not putting my light on in my room yet. So, back to Backlash. Edge defeated Chris Benoit in a last man standing match. That was pretty good. Kane defeated Viscera, which wasn't very good, but whatever. It's 2 monsters, 2 super heavyweights going at it. So what do you expect? It wasn't really going to be any good with 2 big guys, except Kane is a great worker and could work with massive super heavyweights, and Kane could work with cruiserweights. The guy's great. Viscera couldn't really do that much in the ring because he's pretty obese. Hulk Hogan returned. I don't think this was the main event of Backlash, but it could have been. The World Heavyweight Championship was the main event. Anyways, Hulk Hogan returns at pay-per-view in the WWE to wrestle in 2005 and teams up with HBK Shawn Michaels. They made a pretty good team. I was happy to see Hulk Hogan come back and wrestle in 05 because I still a mark for Hulk Hogan, and I still am. I'm not going to just turn my back on the guy because he made a big mistake. Anyways, Hulk Hogan teams up with HBK. The build-up was pretty good. HBK was on Raws before Backlash, begging Hulk Hogan, we need you back for one more match. And then the fans started chanting one more match. And Hogan agreed, came back, teamed with HBK against, and they defeated I forget how you say his name. Davani, or anyways, the manager of Muhammad Hassan. We all know who he was. Davani, whatever his name was. And Muhammad Hassan lost to Hulk Hogan and HBK. It was a pretty good tag match, and it was decent. The fans were into it. I was into it. Main event was World Heavyweight Champion Batista defeating, again, former Evolution member, former best friend Triple H. I'm sure Triple H really helped out Batista when he came up to the main roster in 2002 and he was put in Evolution. So I'm sure that Batista still has a lot of respect for Triple H, and they're probably still good friends. Even though Batista won't be returning to the WWE. And I don't blame him, because he's getting a huge paydays to be in movies. So why would he come back and put his body through wrestling and taking all those bumps again when the guy could probably get paid over $5 million for one movie without taking any bumps or being on the road a lot? So Batista defeats Triple H, retains the World Heavyweight Championship. I expected that. The match, I don't remember much of it, but I'm sure it's decent and pretty good, because Triple H always had good matches against Batista, in my opinion. And Batista was still learning as World Heavyweight Champion. He got the ball from the WWE at WrestleMania 21. He got a major push. He won the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 21. So he got the ball to run with it, and he scored a touchdown. He was a pretty good World Heavyweight Champion. And as I said, he's still learning. He was still picking things up. He wasn't a great wrestler, but he was a pretty decent worker. Now I'm going to talk about TNA Lockdown pay-per-view, which took place in April, I believe. So that's not Lockdown. I'm on the wrong year of TNA pay-per-views. Lockdown 05 took place from the Impact Zone again in Orlando, Florida, because that's the only place TNA could draw a crowd, and they didn't even pay for their tickets anyways, because TNA was still pretty new, only been around for 3 years or 4 years, whatever it was, 3, 4, 5. So TNA was around for 3 years almost in April 05. So they couldn't really go on the road, and they couldn't draw 1,000 people for their pay-per-view, so they stayed at the Impact Zone, and they had a decent deal with Universal, or not, I think it's called Universal Studios in Florida, in Orlando, where the crowds would come to watch TNA tapings and pay-per-views, and some of the crowds were really into it, and a lot weren't, and a lot of people at the Impact Zone were probably non-fucking wrestling fans. So, on to Lockdown. I'm going to just read the matches I thought were good. I'm not going to read every match, because every match wasn't good, and every match was held in the 6 sides of steel. So, the kickoff show, I think, or maybe it was a pay-per-view. Apollo and Sonny Siaki defeated Chris Candido and Lance Hoyt. Dustin Rhodes defeated Bobby Roode in a best-of-3 falls match. The third fall was a blindfold match. I don't remember that. It sounds pretty awful. Even though Dustin and Bobby Roode were good workers at the time. This stupid wrestler, I think he's from AAA, his name was Shocker. He was an X-Division Lucha Libre type wrestler. Shocker defeated Chris Sabin. Michael Shane and Sanjay Dutt in a 4-way elimination 6 sides of steel match. I believe you had to climb over the cage or to win. I don't remember how you won. I guess people got eliminated by pinfall. And then the final 2 guys had to escape the cage to win. So Shocker wins. And nobody cared about Shocker in TNA, because the guy really couldn't speak English to get over with the American fans. And he was gone out of TNA like 2 months later. He was gone. Probably went back to Mexico, back to AAA. This was good. Jeff Hardy defeated Raven in a tables and chairs 6 sides of steel cage match. A lot of tables were used. I believe Jeff Hardy put Raven on top of a table, and there were 4 tables set up. 1 on the side of Raven, 2 on the bottom of them. Jeff Hardy went up to the top of the 6 sides of steel, put Raven through 4 tables by crashing through Raven's body. Chris Harris and James Storm, America's Most Wanted, defeated Petey Williams and Eric Young, Team Canada, to retain the NWA Tag Titles. TNA X Division Champion Christopher Daniels defeated Elix Skipper. They were former tag partners in 04 and 03 as Triple X. DDP, Sean Wadman, BG James defeated the team of Jeff Jarrett, Monty Brown, and the Outlaw. Who was the Outlaw? He was Billy Gunn. But he wasn't called Billy Gunn. He was called Kip James, a god-awful wrestling name for any wrestler. Main event was pretty damn good. It was AJ Styles defeating Abyss. This was a good 6 sides of steel cage match. Good way to end TNA Lockdown. And good way to close the show with basically your franchise in AJ Styles. Now I'm going to talk about the May 05 TNA pay-per-view Hard Justice. Hard Justice was not very good, and I believe right before Hard Justice they did a tribute video for Chris Candido because he passed away before Hard Justice, I believe, in May, or I think he was not on this show. Maybe Chris Candido maybe passed away before Slammiversary 05, but I think it was in May. Anyways, they did a tribute to Chris Candido. Had his boots in the ring with a chair and a light on his boots, a spotlight on him. Very sad. Chris Candido passed away. He had a blood clot in his leg, and then he went to fly on a plane, and I guess he wasn't supposed to fly on a plane, and then the blood clot, I don't know how he died, but he died because he had a blood clot in his leg, basically, and he wasn't supposed to fly, and he did. So he passed away. Very, very sad, very, very tragic for wrestling and all the wrestling fans and all the Chris Candido fans. Very sad, very tragic. He had to die and pass away like that, because if he was still alive today, he'd probably still be working in wrestling on the creative side of things and on the creative team somewhere in some company. So very sad that Chris Candido passed away in 05. I think he was in his late 30s. Probably he was 36 or something like that. Young guy. Shouldn't have passed away. It was a big loss to the wrestling business. On to Hard Justice now. And that name for a pay-per-view, Hard Justice, is a god-awful name for a pay-per-view. Sounds like a fucking porno. Up first was good matches that I enjoyed. Michael Shane teamed up with Trinity to defeat the team of Chris Sabin and Tracy Brooks in a mixed tag team match. And after this, Tracy Brooks turned on Chris Sabin, and Tracy Brooks went with Michael Shane, and she started managing him. At least storyline-wise, like they were dating, but I doubt they were really dating. Maybe they were. I don't know. But I believe in 03 or 04, Tracy, it might even been in 05, Tracy Brooks dated CM Punk at one time. Raven defeated Sean Wadman, substituting for Jeff Hardy in a Clockwork Orange House of Fun match. This was pretty good. It was entertaining. And Raven got the victory over Sean Wadman, X-Pac, whatever you want to call him. X-Pac, 6-Pac, 123 Kid. He's Sean Wadman. This match was not good. Monty Brown and the Outlaw defeated Ron Killings and DDP. I don't even know why I read it to you guys, because it was shit. Not that the talent in the match wasn't good, because they were all 4 good talents. NWA Tag Team Champions Andy Douglas and Chase Stevens. I believe they were called, what was their team name? I can't remember it. Anyways, what the hell was their name? The Naturals. I think they were called the Naturals. Andy Douglas and Chase Stevens, the Naturals, the new NWA Tag Champs, defeated America's Most Wanted. X Division Champion Christopher Daniels defeated the Shocker. And nobody cared about the Shocker. That's why he was gone out of TNA. Abyss won a 20-man gauntlet match, last defeating Ron Killings. This was very good. It was very entertaining. I always enjoyed TNA's gauntlet matches, especially the gauntlet for the gold matches and stuff like that. Great concept, great ideas, kind of like a Royal Rumble. They do a countdown clock and then another guy would enter every 90 seconds, whatever. It's called the gauntlet, or gauntlet matches, or gauntlet for the gold. Those were great gimmick matches for TNA. Main event was AJ Styles defeating NWA World Heavyweight Champion Jeff Jarrett to win the NWA World title. Tito Ortiz, UFC fighter, was a special guest referee. I was happy. I marked out because I was a big AJ Styles fan in 05. Big mark for AJ. I was very happy he won the NWA title. Good for him. And he should have been the world champ because he was a franchise of TNA and TNA's top guy. At least that's how I look at it. AJ Styles and was built in TNA. He was built as TNA's franchise and top guy and main player. And he should have been because he was that good. Now I'll talk about WWE Judgment Day 05. SmackDown Tag Team Champions Eminem, Joey Mercury, and Johnny Nitro. Eminem with Melina defeated Charlie Haas and Hardcore Holly to retain the tag titles. Carlito defeated The Big Show after Matt Morgan interfered. That match was no good. I didn't enjoy it. It was boring. Cruiserweight Champion Paul London defeated Chavo Guerrero Jr. That was probably a good match because they're both good wrestlers. Booker T defeated Kurt Angle, and at the time Kurt Angle was basically acting like he was obsessed with Booker's wife, Sharmell. He was acting like he was obsessed with her and stalking her. So that's why he took on Booker T. They had a very short feud in 05. It was pretty weird how Kurt Angle was acting towards Sharmell. It was weird. It was like he had a fetish for black women. It was weird. Or a fetish for Booker T's wife anyways, and she is black. So there you go. U.S. Champion Orlando Jordan. I forgot he was even a U.S. Champion. He didn't last very long in the WWE, maybe 2 years or 3 years, and then he was gone. Orlando Jordan defeated Heidenreich. Nobody cared. And a lot of these matches nobody really cared about because they were all SmackDown brand. The pay-per-view was Judgment Day 05. Rey Mysterio Jr. defeated and continued his feud with Eddie Guerrero after WrestleMania, so Rey defeats Eddie by DQ. Main event was John Cena defeating JBL in an I Quit match, and this was one of the bloodiest matches probably maybe ever. Very bloody. Very, very bloody. And John Cena bled a lot. Just like Judgment Day 04, where Eddie Guerrero bled buckets. John Cena bled buckets also. He bled like a stuffed pig. He wouldn't stop bleeding. His entire face and chest were covered in blood. Blood was pouring out of his head onto his chest. His shorts, his ring gear, basically also was covered in blood. or his shorts, jean shorts, were basically stained in blood. So Cena bled a lot, even probably bled more than Eddie did in '04 at Judgment Day, and Eddie bled a lot. He needed a blood transfusion. He bled so damn much. He lost so much blood. So between Judgment Day '04, where Eddie bled so much, and then Judgment Day '05, where Cena bled so much, those two matches are probably the bloodiest matches, or one of the most bloodiest, or just the most blood I've ever seen come out of a wrestler was Eddie Guerrero at Judgment Day '04 and John Cena at Judgment Day '05. In WWE history, I've never seen two guys bleed as much as they did. And they bled an insane amount of blood. It was crazy. Crazy to watch. If you have the WWE Network, go back and watch Judgment Day '04 at the end, where JBL bashes Eddie with a chair, and then Eddie cuts himself, bleeds a lot. It's insane. The finish is insane. And Eddie shows a lot of heart. Fights back, even though he's bleeding profusely. And watch Judgment Day '05. Cena versus JBL. It's a pretty good I Quit match. Cena bleeds an insane amount of blood. It's pretty entertaining if you're a fan of blood in wrestling. So, I Quit match, JBL gets his title rematch and loses to John Cena, WWE's Golden Boy. And they were pushing him to the moon as a top face of the company in '05 and into '06 and '07 and '08 and '09 and '10 or 2010 or 2011. Every year they have pushed Cena, and Vince has went back to Cena many times because he's still basically his top guy, and Vince still thinks that John Cena can fix all the problems and everything that is wrong with Monday Night Raw. Cena cannot fix everything, and he won't fix a ratings problem. He might give the ratings a boost when he returns, but that's it. It won't last. But who really cares? I don't really care what the ratings are. Doesn't matter to me. If WWE gets so bad and awful, they'll just get canceled on the USA Network. I doubt that will happen, but if it gets so bad, if the ratings get so bad, maybe WWE corporate and the people in power could take Vince McMahon out of power. I don't know. I doubt they could because it's his company. And he's still the CEO of WWE. But ratings will get a boost before Royal Rumble and into WrestleMania season. The ratings will jump and get better on Raw. So don't worry about it. And you shouldn't anyways. It's not your problem. So now I'm going to go on to June '05. June 12th, 2005, we had two pay-per-view events from the WWE in June. That was pretty stupid. I never liked that when WWE would put on two different pay-per-views. I never was a fan of it, but I was a fan of this pay-per-view because I did grow up as a teenager when ECW was at their hottest and at their peak in 99 and 2099. When I started watching ECW was in 99 full time. Anyways, ECW, I was a huge ECW mark, huge ECW fan. Yes, I did drink the Kool-Aid, and you could say Paul Heyman was like a cult leader for all the ECW fans. He kind of was. Paul Heyman was kind of God to all the ECW fans. And he was damn good. Paul Heyman has a great mind for wrestling. And he ran ECW pretty damn good. Even though they went out of business because he wasn't a businessman. But he was great at coming up with storylines and ideas to draw people and get people into ECW. So, ECW One Night Stand took place basically because a DVD that was released in the fall of '04, the rise and fall of ECW, the ECW story DVD was put out by the WWE. I'm sure they did not expect that DVD to even sell, probably even sell 10,000 copies. Well, it ended up selling like 150,000 copies. Probably sold more. I don't have the exact numbers, but I would not be shocked if the Rise and Fall of ECW DVD, I would not be shocked if it did sell over 200,000 copies. Anyways, it sold over 150, I know that. Or at least 140,000, I heard. So the success of the Rise and Fall of ECW DVD is the reason Vince decided to bring back ECW for one night only, for One Night Stand. Or One Night Stand was the name of the pay-per-view, and it was back. It was a reunion show, basically a ECW reunion show. It was called One Night Stand, and it was put on by the WWE and Vince McMahon because why wouldn't he put it on? He owned all the ECW footage anyways. So he can make a little bit of extra money putting on this pay-per-view, and I believe it did do a pretty damn good buy rate of over 330,000 ordered it. So pretty good buy rate for back in '05. WWE doesn't even do 100,000 buys anymore for any of their pay-per-views because of the network. People get the network and watch it on the network, and you would be smart to do that because the network is only $9.99 and you get every pay-per-view for every month. If you pay your $9.99 every month. If you aren't a cheap bastard and you don't go on wrestling sites and steal the pay-per-views and watch them on streams. If you do that, you're a cheap motherfucker. And you're an idiot. But whatever, everybody in this fucking world wants everything for free. I happily give my $9.99 to the WWE and Vince. I'll happily give it to them so I can watch NXT every month and all the old school shows like Nitro, ECW, I can go on and on, NWA World Championship Wrestling, whatever, all the old stuff, Mid-South, AWA, Smoky Mountain, even though I wasn't really a fan of it, I'll still watch it, WCCW. That's basically why I get the WWE Network, is for NXT and the old stuff from 25, 30 years ago. So now, what the hell was I talking about? ECW One Night Stand, the reunion show. Shane Douglas actually put on his own reunion show in Philadelphia at the ECW Arena. It was called Hardcore, I think it's called Hardcore Homecoming. I hope I don't have that wrong. Hardcore Homecoming. I have the damn DVD, but I can't remember the name. Anyways, their main event was Terry Funk against Sabu against Shane Douglas in a three-way barbed wire match. And they put on one of the most epic, probably first ever triple threat matches in February '94 at ECW the night the line was crossed. So they were doing that match again, but this time it was a barbed wire match. And it didn't go 60 minutes like it did in '94. And Shane Douglas was pretty out of shape. He came to the ring in a t-shirt and jeans. He shouldn't have been in the ring, but whatever. He had to wrestle because I guess he had to, because it was an ECW reunion show and he was putting himself in the main event because he put it on, so why not? And Francine was with him. She still looked pretty damn good. And she even, after the, what the hell's the name of that show? Whatever it's called, Hardcore Homecoming, I think. After Francine was on there, and a lot of ECW originals, they actually worked on Sunday WWE's ECW One Night Stand show. A lot of talents worked it, like they also worked Shane Douglas's ECW reunion. I believe that was on Friday night or Saturday night in Philly. They go to New York, Manhattan Center. Sabu worked both ECW reunions. Boz Mahoney, Axelron worked both. Who am I missing? A lot of people worked both ECW reunion shows. So it kicked off with Joey Styles in the ring. He came out, got a huge ovation. The crowd was absolutely great in New York at the Manhattan Center. The crowd was absolutely hyped, and they were great the entire pay-per-view. They were rabid, hardcore ECW fans were at this show, and they were vocal, and they were great. Every time a wrestling crowd is great for a show, it always makes a show better. At least I think so. So, he kicked off Joey Styles in the ring. He got emotional before he got on the mic. And then he got on the mic and said, "Oh my God!" He did that gimmick that he came up with very long time ago. Probably started saying, "Oh my God," I don't know, 94 or something. Anyways, I'm sure wrestling announcers said it before him, but Joey Styles became famous for saying, "Oh my God!" So, then he gets emotional, crowds chanting, "Joey, Joey, ECW, ECW," the normal ECW chants. Then he introduces his broadcast partner on commentary for the night, Cactus Jack. Mick Foley comes out dressed in his Cactus Jack shirt. That famous, you know what it looks like, it's yellow and black, the famous Cactus Jack Dead or Alive Wanted shirt. That's a great shirt. He was wearing that. Cactus and Joey hug in the ring. Joey and the announcer, I believe his name is Steven DeAngelis, they shake hands and they looked happy to see each other. So this was a great kickoff. Joey Styles says, "Welcome to ECW's One Night Stand." The crowd pops, and then an ECW video is shown to open the show. A classic, like, ECW opening that they used to do in the year 2000. The ECW letters dropping on the screen and with their ECW theme music playing to open the pay-per-view. Kicking off with Lance Storm with Don Marie, his manager, when he was in ECW. When they both were, a lot of talent on here was ECW originals. So Don Marie comes out with a Lance, and she's actually pregnant. She didn't just gain a whole bunch of weight. She was pregnant, people. So if some dumbasses were calling her fat and ugly on the pay-per-view, you're a bunch of sick fucks because she was pregnant. And that's rude as hell to say that to a pregnant woman. So Don Marie still accompanied Lance Storm when she was pregnant. I got a lot of respect for her doing that. She didn't have to. But she had a lot of love, I'm sure, to ECW and Paul Heyman. So she wanted to be at One Night Stand. Lance Storm defeated his former tag team partner, Chris Jericho. Jericho actually worked his first ever pro wrestling match against Lance Storm in Canada. And they were a tag team for a short time called the Thrill Seekers. So Lance Storm defeats Jericho Lionheart. He was announced as Lionheart Chris Jericho because that's what he was called when he was in ECW in '96. So Lance Storm and Jericho have a pretty good match to kick off the pay-per-view. Up next, three-way dance matches ECW became famous for. Super Crazy returned and I believe signed a WWE contract before this, or after this show he signed a WWE deal and stayed in the WWE for 2 or 3 years. Super Crazy defeated Little Guido, who was already under WWE contract, and Tajiri, who was also under WWE contract. It was a great three-way elimination match. It was very good. Super Crazy went up to the balcony. They fought in the crowd. The crowd was absolutely insane. They were really into this match. Super crazy. Does a moonsault off the balcony, takes out a lot of people. It was awesome. Up next, we had Rey Mysterio Jr., another guy who was under WWE contract, defeating Psychosis. They had a great feud and great series of matches when they were in ECW in '95, before they left to go to WCW. They brought Lucha Libre, ECW brought Lucha Libre to the United States, and it was born in ECW. Because that's where Rey Mysterio, Psychosis, Conan, Juventud Guerrero, La Parca, they all started in ECW in '95 before they went to WCW. Up next was, and Rey Mysterio, by the way, defeated Psychosis. Up next, Sabu defeated Rhino. I don't think this was a match, official match on the card. It just started, and it just started. Like a lot of matches would just start on ECW pay-per-views back in the day. They weren't promoted. They weren't supposed to even be on the card. They would just, like, two guys would get in the ring and start wrestling. And the format was thrown out the window for a lot of ECW pay-per-views. Anyways, Sabu defeated Rhino. It was a pretty good match. Sabu threw a chair, drilled Rhino in the head with it, put Rhino through a table, I think, or maybe Rhino moved and Sabu just went through a table. Up next, Chris Benoit defeated Eddie Guerrero. Both guys were under WWE contract. That was obvious, and it was an okay match, but I've seen them have better in Japan and WCW. And Sabu was brought in. He was not under WWE contract. He was just brought in for one night only. Rhino, I believe, was still under WWE contract before I think he got drunk and during WrestleMania, I think 2006 or something. Rhino, I believe, got drunk and did something really stupid at a hotel, caused a scene, so WWE released him for that. I think it was a year in 2006 they released Rhino. Maybe it was late '05, I don't know. But I do know Rhino was released probably shortly after One Night Stand '05. Up next, this was a classic, pretty damn classic ECW hardcore awesome match. They did all the same spots that they did in ECW back in the day, but they did them again in '05, and it was still pretty over with the crowd. Mike Awesome came out, didn't get a good reaction because he left ECW to go to WCW and basically wanted to throw the ECW title down on Nitro, but ECW, I think, sued, so Mike Awesome couldn't do that to the world title. Mike Awesome returns. The ECW does not get a warm welcome, gets a lot of this from the fans in the first row, hardcore ECW fans. Did not like to see Mike Awesome on this show. He got booed. But during the middle of the match, the crowd actually changed and they started cheering the match. And they got into it. And they didn't really care what Mike Awesome did by leaving ECW. Some thought Mike Awesome sold out, whatever. The guy left because I'm sure he got a huge amount of money to go to WCW and he wasn't going to make that being ECW World Champ. I don't blame Mike Awesome for leaving ECW, but as a fan, I did not like it. But I didn't hate to see him on One Night Stand. I wasn't pissed off that he was on the show. I thought he's on the show. I hope him and Masato Tanaka tear it up and have a great fucking match, and they did. It was a classic ECW match, classic Mike Awesome, Masato Tanaka match. Chairs were used and bashed. Mike Awesome bashed the fucking chair over Masato Tanaka's head a couple times. Masato Tanaka kept getting up, showing great fight, great heart, even though he probably had a headache like a son of a bitch, and his head was probably pounding and hurting like a motherfucker. But he still kept continuing the match and getting up. You had tornado DDTs on double steel chairs. You had tables set up on the outside of the ring up against the guardrail where Mike Awesome power bombed Masato Tanaka off the ring apron through the table. That got a great reaction. And that looked brutal because Masato Tanaka, right after taking it, he started holding his head like this. So I'm sure that had to hurt. And then there's a table spot in the ring where they're both on the turnbuckles. And Masato Tanaka DDTs Mike Awesome through the table. That was a great spot. Anyways, Mike Awesome defeats Masato Tanaka. And then after the match, or even Mike Awesome during it, dove over the top rope. I think Masato Tanaka was laying through a broken table, or maybe he was on one. I don't really remember. Anyways, Mike Awesome dove over the top on top of Masato Tanaka on the floor. That didn't have to feel good for both of them. It was an awesome match. And then after the match, for some reason, the camera cuts back into the ring and Mike Awesome power bombs a referee. For some reason, I don't know why. I guess because it was ECW, so they thought, or Mike Awesome thought, I'm going to powerbomb the referee, like he did in '94 in ECW. Anyways, in '94, when he powerbombed the ref, he did it because I think he's embarrassed and pissed off because Mike Awesome was on the top rope on an ECW show in '94, and the top rope snapped and broke, and he fell on his face in the ring. That was pretty embarrassing, I'm sure. And I guess he was angry, so he kicked the referee and powerbombed him in the ring. So he did it again 9 years later, in '05, on pay-per-view. Main event now was the Dudley Boys, and they were off of WWE TV for a while. I think they both needed a break. Bubba Ray and Devon both wanted a break because they were both burnt out. So I understand that. They were not on WrestleMania 21. And I understand that. I don't even think they're on the Royal Rumble or No Way Out, because they wanted a break. So the Dudleys returned. Bubba Ray looked great. He looked thinner, like he lost a lot of weight. Devon looked jacked. And the Dudleys were back. And they looked great. And they were taking on the team of Tommy Dreamer and the Sandman. The Sandman came out to his theme song, Metallica's Enter Sandman. That was always a great entrance to see the Sandman come out to that, being played through the arena. Vince McMahon finally gave up some of his damn money to pay Metallica so he could use Enter Sandman. And I'm glad he did, because it was a great entrance. For the Sandman to have Enter Sandman, it wouldn't have felt right if he just came out and Enter Sandman was not playing. It just wouldn't be right. So, they have a pretty damn good tag match. It was a brawl, ECW style. It was old school ECW match. Spike Dudley comes out after the Dudley set up a table in the ring. Bubba says, Devon, get the tables. I believe they bring a table in the ring, set it up. Spike Dudley comes out, who was also under WWE contract. Everybody was, except the Sandman and Sabu, basically, on the show. Spike Dudley comes out, pulls out lighter fluid out of his pocket. The Dudleys spray the table with a lot of lighter fluid. Probably too much. Probably way too much. They soaked the table in lighter fluid. Anyways, they light it up. Giant flames come off the table. Giant flames really high up. And then they power bomb a bloody mess. Tommy Dreamer got busted open, bladed, cut himself, whatever you want to call it. Was bleeding a lot. Picked up, power bomb through the flaming table. That was absolutely insane to see. It was awesome. I marked out, I popped when I saw that. Even though I didn't wish Tommy Dreamer to be injured. I didn't think he was, but it was an awesome spot. Even though I'm a big fan of Tommy Dreamer and I respect the hell out of him, the guy has broken his back for this business. And I respect the Dudleys. The Sandman I don't really respect as a wrestler, but he was pretty entertaining. His entrance was one of the best in wrestling history, in ECW in my opinion. In the original ECW, not WWE's ECW, because in WWE's ECW, the Sandman had a lame-ass generic theme that WWE gave him. But in ECW, the Sandman was super over, and he had a great entrance, one of the best. That entrance got him over, and that presentation of his entrance was awesome. And how it was done. So, the Dudleys, as I said, they defeat Tommy Dreamer and the Sandman. And before the end of the show, before the entire roster comes out, and then WWE and Vince, this was probably Vince McMahon's idea, they thought, we got to put some WWE superstars on this pay-per-view because it won't sell. ECW will not sell a pay-per-view itself with their original talent on it. That was totally wrong. Of course, ECW could have sold that pay-per-view themselves. They didn't need they didn't need a lot of mid-carders from the WWE roster. They did not need to show up. Edge was there. Christian, Basham Brothers, JBL, Orlando Jordan, Maven, I believe Val Venus, Sean Morley was there. Up in the balcony sitting with Eric Bischoff. The coach was there, sitting with Bischoff. And I think that was everybody. Snitsky might have even been there, sitting with them. Anyways, Vince, I'm sure it was his idea. He wanted some WWE superstars on the pay-per-view because he thought ECW couldn't sell their own pay-per-view. And that fans wouldn't be interested in an ECW reunion show. Well, Vince, I don't know if you know this, you probably didn't, but when ECW went out of business, they were still selling out all their pay-per-views. In a lot of their house shows, they were selling out all their shows before they went out of business, so they were still really popular. You can hate on ECW all you want. When they went out of business, like it or not, they still had a lot of fans. And a lot of fans missed ECW and wanted to see it back. In a reunion show, when I heard about it, I was really excited about it. And I was excited to see it and what was going to go down because I was a huge ECW original fan. And I did not start watching from 93 and 94 when ECW started because I couldn't. I didn't get Philadelphia television where I live. So I couldn't watch ECW from the beginning. But I have gone back and I have seen all their old shows of when they started. So I've seen basically every ECW show that it was ever put out before they went out of business. And as I said, I became a full-time ECW fan in 1999 because that's when my cable company that I had finally got ECW on pay-per-view in 98. But I ordered the first ECW pay-per-view in 99. It was Living Dangerously. It was a great show. RVD, Jerry Lynn was on that show. They had an epic match for the TV title. I know I'm going on a bit long here, but I'll be done soon. So, as I said, I became a full-time ECW fan in 99. So, I was a ECW original fan. Still love their product to this day. We're talking 15, 16 years ago. There's ECW's television and pay-per-views from 15, 16 years ago, 17 years ago, is still great and still holds up to this day on the WWE Network. It's all on there. So, what was I saying? Stupid Vince thought we need some WWE superstars on the ECW pay-per-view. That was dumb and that was not needed, but whatever. It was done. And then they come out, or Paul Heyman cut a promo, and he cut a great promo, got in the ring, thanked all the ECW fans, gave them their respect from him, got on the mic, said, "This is not Raw. This is not SmackDown. This is EC fucking W." Crowd popped. It was great. And then Paul Heyman went outside one of the ropes, and then looked at Edge and said, "Everybody," he either said, "hide your wives" or "hide your girlfriends, it's Edge." And then, because Edge, of course, Edge and Lita cheated on Matt Hardy and went behind his back and had an affair. I believe Edge was married at the time he started going with Lita. And of course, Lita was going with Matt Hardy, but they had an affair together. Everybody knows that. But that is pretty cool to hear Paul Heyman say that. And Paul Heyman was shooting, if you will, from the hip. He didn't care. He was saying what had to be said to Edge and to JBL. And then he said something to Eric Bischoff. I think he called Eric Bischoff a bitch or something like that. Bischoff just went like this back to Paul Heyman because they never got along and liked each other. I don't know if they do today, but they're not really around each other, and I'm sure they don't talk to each other on the phone. I doubt Bischoff and Heyman are talking to each other in text or on the phone or in emails or on Twitter. So, this ends my Year in Wrestling 2005 Part 2 video. I'll talk about TNA Slammiversary 05 in my next video. I'll start talking about June to October maybe. This ends my Year in Wrestling 2005 Part 2 video. Hope you enjoyed it. Sorry it was a bit long. If you watched 5 or 10 minutes of it, thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good Wednesday evening. Enjoy NXT if you're watching it live. Bye for now, everybody.